once you live a life that is so terrible, like just to see the expression on your face right now, yeah, it was super painful, but you live that and you learn things, right? You learn that no matter what, the sun's going to shine the next day, right?
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of I Know This Guy, the podcast where we dive deep into the lives of some of the most interesting people I know. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to I Know This Guy wherever you get your podcasts. By the way, my kids want me to say something about ringing a bell. What the hell's a bell?
So, Dad, I hear we have an interesting gal lined up for the podcast today.
We have a very interesting lady with the most incredible story. In fact, I've never heard a story like this before. And I know she's going to change things around on me. Her name's Lil Roberts, and I can't wait to start this interview.
All right. Well, excited to see what happens.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Lil.
Oh, well, thanks, Norman. It's an honor to be here and to be with you. You know, here you are interviewing people that you find interesting, and you have to be one of the most interesting people I know. Great story you have, and just how you live your life is so inspiring. So I'm honored to be here with you today, and let's have some fun, right?
That's the only thing I ask is let's have some fun. Let's kick back, have some coffee if you got a coffee there, and let's talk story. So, and
Yeah.
you've got to be, so let's just like back it up a bit. So I thought I knew you fairly well. We've met each other like a few times, always at one random party that we go to.
Yeah.
But anyway, you blew me away the other day with part of your backstory. And, maybe we could just get right into it. And what makes Lil?
Well, thank you. So let's put a disclaimer on it for the listeners right now that you're going to hear a little bit of sadness, but with all sadness comes the positive, right? There's always the yin and the yang. So, Norman, I was born and raised in South Florida and have been here my whole life, and I was one of five kids, fourth in line, only girl out of four boys and myself, and just not a well-to-do family by any means. My dad was an over-the-road truck driver. My mom wasn't excuse me, wasn't college educated, and my dad died suddenly when I was 10 years old. He died of two heart attacks. This is back in the 70s, kind of showing my age here, and left my mom with five kids. And that tragedy just became many more tragedies. We following year lost my only living grandmother. Following year after that, lost one of my brothers, and to a just a accident, a boating accident. And then over the next, call it 7 years, lost two more brothers, my oldest, and then my one that was right above me, who was my favorite brother, Tommy. And so I was the first one in my family to live past 24 years old. The my and so when we dive into that and you say, wow, well, yeah, and as a child, it can give you a lot of problems because you just don't realize um, that that's not normal, and so it gives you abandonment issues and all kinds of things that layers into you as you're growing up, and you don't realize it, so it can put you at a disadvantage. But as I sit and look back at my life, and really even throughout the period of that, there was so much good that came out of having adversity, right? Out of having tragedy or challenges. And sure, you can go either way. But for me, once you live a life that is so terrible, like just to see the expression on your face right now, yeah, it was super painful, but you live that and you learn things, right? You learn that no matter what, the sun's going to shine the next day, right? And that that you have a choice in life, that you can make good out of things or you can be a victim, right? You can either say, oh my God, this happened to me, or you can go out there and you can try to make a difference and try to change it. And so for me, that's what I did. And I don't think I'm, special or anything else like that. I think I've been really blessed in my life to have key people around me that not necessarily blood, but their family, not by blood, but by love, and so had an opportunity to meet some remarkable people along the way that made a difference in my life. And hopefully I have paid it forward by providing nice work environments and positive environments and opportunities for other people.
I hear people, not so much entrepreneurs, but maybe some younger entrepreneurs getting into the business, and they fall apart over very simple stress.
Yes.
And, one of the things I tell people is, don't let the stress worry you. It's never as bad as you think. But yet the I would probably say the younger entrepreneurs or people that are getting into business just cripple themselves because of, small things that 10 years or 20 years down the line won't even be a blink. And then you go through what you've gone through, and no wonder you're so successful. I mean, if you could take on or live through that type of life, the stress that comes up in everyday business must just roll off your shoulders.
uh, I'd like to think that. I mean, it probably affects us all, right? Stress does, but you're absolutely right. I would say one of the things that got me through my childhood is that it's all about telling ourselves the story, that whatever that story may be, and it could be a good story or a bad story. But if you tell yourself the story, it's going to help you through, right? And so the story I told myself was that I said, you know what? A third of my life, in general, a third of people's lives are really, really good. A third of people's lives are really, really bad, and a third is just so. And so I put a positive outlook to it, and I said, okay, I can't change what's happening to me, but what I can do is I can control my perspective. I said, okay, a third of my life is really, really bad. I got it out of the way. And now let's move on to the other two thirds. And so that is the story that I told myself along the way. And, you know, we all have a choice, right? Like with things that we do. And every day when we get up, we get to make, no matter what happened yesterday, no matter what happened last month. And this is so timely because we're living in the COVID times, that we get up in the morning and we get to decide, what kind of a day we're going to lead with, right? And so I choose to lead my days with love and with compassion and with productivity and with making the best out of whatever is dealt our way, not trying to understand it. We don't need to understand everything. Like, imagine if I tried to understand why all my family members died, it would waste my life, right? It happened. You mourn, you're sad, you pick yourself up and figure out what you're going to do with your life so you can live your life.
It's really how you process your thoughts. If I'm hearing you right, I mean, what's really making your life successful is the way your thought process is. It's positive
Yeah.
instead of negative.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
living each day when you get up. And I've seen this with really successful people. Matter of fact, the people that really I'm attracted to are people that have that positive outlook. You can be kicked in between the legs 1,000 times, but it's just another kick and you move forward. It's just how you process it. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about entrepreneurs
Yeah.
is, most of the successful people I've ever met just have this positive outlook that they can do something, they can make a change, they can pay it forward. They'll process things differently than other people.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a really good point, Norman, and that is that, it's lots of times when you're a super positive person, people will think you're just like really crazy, right? And positivity costs nothing, right? It's just about finding that little thing every day that can put a smile on your face. And there's lots of people that are my friends. We're blessed, just like you're very blessed, both of us, that we have lots and lots of friends in our lives. And there's an exercise I do every year, and this is going to sound really bad, but I'm going to go ahead and share it, out here on the broadcast. And I started doing this, I guess, about 15 years ago. And the exercise I do is New Year's is that time of year when it's a time that you reflect and you say, okay, what have I done in this period of time? And what am I going to do in the next period of time? And the most important thing that we all have is time, right? It's not money, it's time. And at the end, when people have no time left, it doesn't matter how much money they have. And so the exercise I do is I reflect in the last week of the year, and I think about all the friends that I have and how I spend my time. And I think about the ones that that take a lot of your time, but they're not positive, and they just want to go over the same things over and over and over again. And those friends, I don't cut them off. What I do, Norman, is I space them. So it's not like I take them out of my life. I'm still going to be there if they called me at 3 in the morning and they needed a favor. But I'm just going to limit how much of my time and energy they take because I'm choosing to live my life positive. I'm choosing to go out and have fun, even during this time of COVID. It's a terrible thing. So don't turn on the TV. Don't watch the news. You know, do more reading, do more time that you can spend helping, friends that you haven't caught up with that are truly positive people. Do things like that, right? So that's my little secret. Every year, last week of the year, I analyze all my time. I look at the friends that just say the same problems over and over and over again, and I just gently move the space a little bit.
That I got to do that. I do that for my clients. So the pain in the butt clients, well, I do a little bit more. I try to get rid of them. So I'm too old. I don't want to deal with people that don't appreciate what I'm trying to help them out, and they're always complaining. And that takes an emotional toll on you, and then you've got everybody or the other companies that want to work with you. And that's the same with friendships. So
yeah,
I never thought about applying it and like you're what you said, spacing it out.
yeah.
You don't have to say I'm not dealing with you anymore. It's
Yeah.
just I'll space you out.
Yeah. Well, Norman, let's talk about, you just brought up a good thing, and you and I, we won't mention the situation where
Oh
we
my
fired a
God,
customer
I know
together,
what
right?
you're gonna
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah. But I'm not going to bring it up, right? We won't bring out the particular company. But and look, you're turning red, right? And
Oh yeah.
so I love it. So, but I thought that was so cool how you do that. I think there are so many people in business that they're so afraid to do that. They don't understand how freeing it is if they would just go ahead and say no, right?
Right.
And so let's dive into that. I'm going to switch on you right here, and I'm going to ask
Oh no.
you, but to share that because I think it's so valuable. And there's going to be entrepreneurs that are listening to your podcast, and so many people are fearful of saying goodbye to some revenue. They don't understand it'll only open the door for 5 times, 10 times that revenue. So how do you do it? How do you do
Well,
it gently?
okay. Well, first of all, I think it has to be built into your company culture, right? You have to be able to. You, there is a way of doing it, and it's almost a way of giving the customer or client the ability to think that they're gently being not let go, but it's their idea. So you kind of throw it back at them, that maybe it's not the right fit, and maybe they think, okay, maybe you raise the price, but there's uh, what I'll never do is scream or yell at a client. I'll try. I don't like. I can't even remember the last time that happened. I always treat it with dignity, and I always try to show them that is probably another option on the other side. And like I did with this one, I gave them options of people to actually use to call that maybe I wasn't the best fit. But this is absolutely somebody that would have, or a company that would have tapped my time, tapped my personal time, tapped time I should be developing my customer or my business. And it was a drain. I remember calling you just going, oh my gosh, you won't believe what's happening.
Well,
Oh,
you're so right. And in that particular situation, I was an investor, founding in that company, and I got to tell you, the it should have been a company that was mailbox money, but because it was not aligned with the right type of individual that shares the culture, as you mentioned, which is always the place to start, right? When I added up the time, you made a very wise decision saying goodbye and referring somebody else. When I added up the time it cost me at $50 an hour of my time $250,000, and so I couldn't be more thrilled to have been out of that particular investment.
And you know what I want to make sure, happens here too, people understand. So you referred the person over to me, and that doesn't mean stop referring. I mean, that was one person. So if you've got a referral network that's working with you and something doesn't work out, you've got to go back to the actual person, because sometimes if I didn't know you and you had done it, you might take it personally too and say, well, I'm never going to give any work over to that guy again.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that you were clear about, here's my position. This is why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And, we move on.
Yeah.
So,
And, a great point on that. And look, since then, I've referred probably 10 people, right? And you and I have a wonderful relationship. Neither one of us, when we refer things to each other, neither one of us look for any money from it. We're just helping another human being to find a great human being to work with, right? And because I honor and respect you so much and think that you're amazing at what you do with the Amazon resellers, whenever I have an opportunity that I come across a business owner that says, "Hey, I need to understand how I can do better on Amazon," I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I got the guy for you," And then typically when I'm standing in front of them, I will send the email to just go ahead and connect you guys. And that the one that you said goodbye to was the crazy one, and that one I was needing your help, right? Because I was trapped in that. But then I did exactly what you did. I got myself out of there. But yeah, it's tricky. It's business is a lot like any other kind of relationship. Um, I like to say reason, season, or lifetime. Are you guys familiar with that? Are you familiar with that
I've
saying?
never heard that.
Oh, it's a great saying. I live my life by it. So, you meet and know people either for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And so we're both EOers or have been EOers, and so our forum uh, mates are lifetime people, right? I mean, we could go 20, 30 years, pick up the phone and call them, and they're going to be there, right? And chances are that relationship's going to be as strong. But there's people that you come across, and they can be complete strangers, and the only reason why you crossed their path was for a reason. Either you're giving them a piece of information that they're going to need, maybe not necessarily right then, but at some point in their future, or they're giving you that information that you're going to use. And if you're attuned to it and you are aware, it's amazing how much it feeds into our life down the line, right? So not everybody that you're engaged with needs to be in your life for a lifetime.
Right. And I think one of the other things that you mentioned that's very important, and this is either networking or building a network or your neighbor next door, it's it, you don't have to get paid for everything. And like I for the most part, when somebody says, "Oh, I got an affiliate commission," or I've got I'm not looking for that. You guys are a good fit, and
Yeah,
you do exactly that. And that's one of the things I really respect, because I have had lots of people come to me and, "Oh, I have a referral," and then, "Lil, this really happened." So somebody referred me to a person that came on
yeah,
board. They referred me to a person who referred me to a person. This happened in Florida. So we got down about 4 people, and the guy who referred me came back to me and said, "Well, you owe me for all those 4 people and lifetime. So if any," and I'm sitting there going, "What are you talking about?" And anyways, he's another person. I cut off my network. But when you go and you get introduced, or if you're at a party, or if somebody's there that's very interesting and I'm curious, I'll ask questions. But I'm more than happy to share my time and my knowledge. If somebody asks about Amazon, I don't expect to get paid.
yeah.
And
No,
you're very similar.
thank you. And I probably know that guy that because it's Florida, and offline we'll talk. I think I know which one it may be because they show up that way, right? So that to me is like a squirrel's looking for nuts, right? And
Yeah.
when you're a squirrel looking for nuts, you're just going to stay small. And it's where you're either heart led or you're iron fist, right? In life, I don't think that it's like being lukewarm. You're either hot or cold, right? And so I look at in business, I look at people come from either a heart led type of management and sharing their connections and relationships, or they come out iron fist. And the iron fist ones that's their management style. They're the kind of guys that will come down and expect to get, a vig on everything. And there was and I've been like this my whole life. And Norman, you've been like who you are your whole life. I think that you just become that's who you are. You're either a giver or a taker. And after I sold one of my past businesses, my financial guy gave me this book, and it's called The Go Giver. I don't know if you ever read that book. It's an
No, I
easy
haven't.
read. It's an hour read, hour and a half read, and basically it is a story about a guy who, when he was able to apply that principle of just doing things for the good of doing them, his life became really well. He found success. So don't go out doing good things so you can find success. Go out doing good things just to do good things. And what will happen is you may not see it, but 6 months, a year, something always comes back around, right? It always does. It's kind of like leaving it to the universe, uh, and let it find its way.
Right. Starting a business. Uh, I hear this all the time, or I hear people talk about it. And I mean, it could be the right approach for some people, but I always, if I'm starting a business and I've got a passion going into that business, I'm really not worried about the numbers. I am worried about the numbers, but
Yeah,
if it makes sense, I'm not fearful of the money. If I can build the relationships, if I know
yeah,
my business, I know the money will come. But
yeah,
when you go into a business and you have to have the money, it
yeah,
shows. You show fear, you show greed. Uh, At least if somebody is pressing me or is, I call it bullying, and you can always tell these types of salespeople.
yeah.
Um, you know that they're not in it for the business or the passion or the love.
Right.
They're in it to make that buck, and they don't care what happens.
Yeah.
And
It's
those
like
are the
going
ones
to
that usually
Vegas.
fail.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%,
Yeah,
100%. You know what? It's like going to Vegas and you got $250 and that's the only thing and you go to bet, you're not going to win, right?
yeah,
You got to go you got to go and jump off the ledge. I like to say I'm a ledge walker because I love adrenaline. And so, I'm happy to toss off the ledge. And actually I need that in my life. It's important to understand what you need in your life to be happy. And I need that thrill. But yeah, if you have unbelievable passion, you will get there. And the business I'm in now, you mentioned numbers, so real quickly, I'll just hit on something about that with the business. Entrepreneurs, as you know, we just like to solve problems, right? And it's almost like a disease, right? Because you see the world through the lens of, oh, that's a problem. Oh, that's a problem. Oh, I can solve that problem. And that's how we get ourselves into all the businesses that we get into. Not really like we're like, oh, I'm going to hunt for money, or everybody thinks if you're a business owner, your time is your own and you go do anything you want in life. And usually it's quite the opposite, right? The business owners, if you added up their hours, are really working for minimum wage, right?
yeah.
because because as you're doing that. But so lots of times when people get in business, they get in business just by happenstance. They see something, they see an opportunity, and they end up in it, right? And so the business that I'm in right now, and this isn't my last business that I'm in, I have three more that I'm really passionate about doing after this one. But this business is my first intentional businesses. I've had eight other businesses, and this is my and most of them exited nicely, and some of them just shut down. The timing, the world moved in a way that it was better to just go ahead and let them die off. Um, but this business I did intentionally through doing a personal scorecard, and and that scorecard I've helped a lot of entrepreneurs looking for businesses to do. I've given them that as the framework, and basically it's a framework where you take a legal pad and you write five things on top of each page, right? And it has to be in this order. You put personal, you put family on the next page, you put community on the page after, you put business on the page after, and then you put financial. And then basically, you go find your quiet spot. You go find your safe spot that you feel really good, and you get rid of all your electronics and distractions. And you do it the old fashioned way. You do it with pen and paper for that kinetic connection, right? And you write down all the things in each one of those topics that make you really happy and that make you unhappy. And by going through this little exercise, and then there's a second phase after it, and by going through this exercise, you'll end up with clarity about what you want to do and how you want to spend your time. And and so through that, I ended up solving the problem. Is currently what we're working on is solving the problem for small business owners that don't have visibility into their numbers and their finances. Because the majority of small business owners and entrepreneurs do what they're doing because they're passionate, right? You're doing podcasts because you're passionate about it. Eventually, it'll make money for you,
Oh,
more
who
than likely,
knows?
but you don't care. But
I
you're not
don't.
doing it for that. You're not doing it for that because you know what? You love the story about the human, right? And
Right.
so and so I don't have an accounting background. I'm not a CPA, but when I look back at what was the frustrating part about my businesses was getting the visibility to the numbers. And I said, there's an analog industry that needs to go digital. And my passion is to help fellow small business owners. I love business. I love small business owners. I think they're the backbone of America. I think they have fascinating stories. And I think that they employ the majority of the population, right? And they can make the difference. They can make the difference. If it's a bad business owner, and they are bad to their team, and their team goes home at dinner, they're not going to sit around the dinner table and talk to their son and say, how was your day today? They're going to talk about the boss being a bad person and how work is terrible. And so if we can help small business owners, and I say we, Norman, because you've got the podcast and you're going to touch a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners. And if we can help bring to the light to them that how you treat your team and the environment you provide for your team ripples. It's like a stone in the lake. It ripples a far way, right?
Yeah, it's like the butterfly effect on steroids.
Yeah, yeah. So, so I don't know, right? I mean, look, right? It's a fun world, isn't it? A lot of people would say, "Oh, it's a hard world. It's a terrible world." I think it's a fun world. How about you?
I'm the same way. I hear people struggling for, all complaining that they can never find an opportunity or they can't afford things. I've been bankrupt. It happened years ago. I got screwed over by a few guys, and I had to go through all that. And you know what? You make do. For me, I found actually that was probably one of the best things that happened in my life. I ended up being able to like live within my means. That was one of the big things, and be able to do things that I couldn't afford anymore. I didn't have the money to do it. Built yourself back up, and you get going. But yeah, it's all learning, and there's plenty of opportunity. There's plenty of good in the world, and it doesn't take a lot of money to have fun.
Yeah.
So
Well, let's dive into that, Norman. So you filed bankruptcy, right? And and so no. You know what? I mean, number one, that's huge for you to say on your own podcast, right? That you did that because a lot of people put a stigma with it when there's not a stigma, right? And then you naturally said, "But I learned a lot and it helped my life." So what led you like when you look backwards, right, through the rear view, and you say, "Okay, how did that happen? And what did you then do with your life to make sure in business that you didn't have that happen again?" And then talk to us on the personal side. Like, what happened on your personal side? How'd your family go through it? And how'd your friends go through
wow, you're tough.
it?
Yeah, but I mean, for me, this is a crazy story. You might feel that there's some exaggeration in here. There's none. So
Right.
I was doing sales for this one company, and I'd pretty much always owned my own company. But there was a brief period of time where I was doing sales for this company. They asked me to come on board. So I did. They asked me to put in $25,000. They showed me their books, and they said, "Oh, if you come on board, um, you'll be 1/3 partner. You'll be at the side of the sales team." Anyways, I thought it was a good opportunity. I put in the $25,000, and there was another guy that was going to do it with me as well. So anyway, months, maybe a year later, all of a sudden, and there was something I had to do, which was sign on to an operating line at the Royal Bank
Oh,
for around $450,000. So okay, I'm looking at the books. Everything's good. If I put in my $25,000, we're in the black. Everything's good. We have this $450,000 to do whatever we want. We could expand. So I'm thinking life's good. Well, I'm in the car with this guy about a year later, and I'm hearing him talk about back to the other guy, and they're talking about how they've eaten up the line, and I'm thinking he doesn't remember the books that he showed me. And anyways, what had happened was there's two sets of books. One that was already over the 450,000. I think it was 425,000. And so he's calling a friend of mine to put in another 25 to carry over. So I'm on the phone like 24 hours or right after, telling the guy, don't put your money in, I had to convince him not to put in his money because they were showing him the set of books. And he wouldn't believe me that, look, this was a good friend of one of the other owners. Anyways, he didn't put his money in. So he got saved the $25,000. These guys had all of their assets, houses, everything into other things, and left me on the hook, jointing several 400 and some odd thousand bucks. I tried to survive, but the bank, like even trying to work with the bank, I couldn't do anything. Like I didn't have the money. I didn't have, like, the company went down. There was just no funds. There was zero. So the only thing I could do is claim bankruptcy. So get this. So I go and I claim bankruptcy. So, and that was tough, because it's bankruptcy. So we sell our house, but the real estate agent, that we sold the house, gives me the papers and I signed off on it. My wife signs off on it. Now the bankruptcy trustee calls me and says, you're going to jail. It's like, what? You had no right to sign off those papers. You're bankrupt. If you don't sign off the profit that you made on the house from your wife, we're going to pursue you and send you to jail. Like we're going to press charges. And I went, I didn't know. And it was just their way of getting, another 25. We had $25,000 at the time that we made profit. I had to give them $25,000 so they wouldn't charge me. So not only did I have that, I had that. So, so that's how that happened. That's how that came around. And then it was very hard because you for 7 years, at least in Canada, you can't own anything. So, I was developing something. I did have another company that I started, but I couldn't get, I had to work with somebody else, but I was the owner, I was directing things. But I couldn't have a credit card. It was horrible. But guess what? The guy that I stopped from putting in the $25,000, we ended up getting together. We ended up starting another business. The clients loved us. They were all Fortune 500 companies, and they all paid in advance, not terms. They paid up front so we could fund our company to get it going. And so it did. The company lasted for about 10 years. It became one of the largest promotional companies in North America. And that's what happened from the bankruptcy.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Well, hats off to you.
Well, thank you
for getting through it and, preserving your family. And really it happened not by any fault of yours. It happened by some guys really taking you, right? They put everything, they hid it in LLCs and all of that. And, that's a really good lesson for other people who invest in businesses to know and to know your partners. There was a saying that I was on a podcast with Entrepreneur Weekly, and here's what it is. There are no good deals with bad partners.
Right.
So there are, no matter how good a product looks or how amazing an opportunity is, if it's a bad partnership, you've got a bad partner, forget it. You're not going to overcome that. It's almost like you can't have a great life with a bad life partner, right?
Right.
And so then it comes down to, like, so many people think, oh yeah, that guy, they're smart, I could be in business with them. No, you can't. Not if they're not culturally aligned to view the world the same way that you do. The
Right.
other two guys that you're talking about, they were both thieves, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why they culturally aligned. They weren't looking for a nice guy like you.
Well, and I don't know how I would have got out unless I did some sort of background check or something, but I got us another quick story about this.
You love it.
So the partner that the one partner, uh, after all this happened, or just at the end when things were kind of wrapping up, we get a call and it's the FBI. So it turns out that my partner was the accountant that brought down the Philadelphia mob. You remember that story? How there was this accountant that went in and they went through all the books and brought down the Philadelphia mob.
Love it. Yes.
That was him. Crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways.
Well, hey, I'll tell you, that brings it to one of my favorite quotes is that don't write the end of the story, right? Like, look, on two levels. One, you had this $450,000 that was a burden on you. You could have easily just pulled in the shutters and closed shop and never went in business again and just kind of let it wreck your life, right? You didn't do that. You didn't let it write the end of the story. You said, I'm just going to be like water. I'm going to move through it. I'm going to find my way, right? And then on the second side of it is you got the bad guys. And so you don't write the end of the story because most people would think, oh, the bad guys, they got away with it. No, they didn't get away with it. They got what was due them, right?
That's right.
And then that's always poetic justice to me when you see the bad guys get what's coming to them. You don't have to be the front runner to lead it to them. It's just always nice when it comes to your ears that the bad people get what's
the thing. One of the things to look back at, though, and I look at this with any stress right now, is at that time, like I said at the beginning, you get an ulcer, you can't sleep at night, you think your life's coming to an end, and at the end of the day, it all worked out. Like I went through it. I had to go through that whole turmoil with that. There was other stresses that came up many times, but now that I look at stress, if it comes up, it's like, all right, nothing comes close to this. Or if it does, why am I even worrying about it? If I've got something that's happening that I'm worried about, okay, let's work through it before I really have to lose sleep. I'm not going to lose sleep over stress anymore.
Good for you. It's very similar to my childhood, Norman.
Right.
That life instance that you had is very similar to my childhood. And lots of times people will say to me, oh, how did you get through? Or, oh my gosh, that's so strong. And I say to them, no, we all have our own things that help make us stronger in life if we let them, right? Key is to let those events make you stronger by putting one foot in front of the other. And so, that stress that you had during that period is every bit equal to the stress I had as a child, right?
And I don't know if I compare that, but yeah.
it is because you can't. It doesn't have to equal. It's not a math equation. It's at that moment in your life your back was against the wall, right?
Right.
And so and that's what happens. And when our back's against the wall, it's you can either come out swinging and find your way, or you can curl up and cry in a corner. And you're not the curl up, cry in a corner kind of guy, and I'm not the curl up, cry in a corner kind of girl. And we just go out and have fun.
Hey guys and gals, this is Hayden Farrar, the producer of I Know This Guy. This concludes part 1 of our interview with Lil Roberts. Make sure to tune in again next time, where she continues to grill my dad and put him in the hot seat. Please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.